Air disaster. A fiery plane crash kills the president of Poland and much of his government. Why did the pilot ignore a recommendation not to land? Mine tragedy in West Virginia. We now know what happened to the last of those missing miners and why the search took so long. Adoption scandal. The latest tonight on the little boy put on a plane alone, sent back to Russia by the American woman who adopted him. And the mystery. A first look in years at the relic some believe is holy. Others say it's hype.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening from the White House and capitals around the world. Condolences are being offered tonight to the people of Poland after a tragic plane crash that has claimed the lives of that country's president, his wife, and many other prominent officials. In all, 97 people died when the jet went down on a flight from Warsaw to Russia. Tonight, the Polish government, an important American ally, is devastated by the loss of not only its president, but its deputy foreign minister, head of national security, and a number of lawmakers who are among the victims. Tonight at this late hour, back in Warsaw, an outpouring of emotion continues as thousands pay their respects outside the presidential palace. The plane crashed in foggy weather while trying to land in Smolensk, Russia. NBC's Tom Aspell has more on the tragedy.
This is Poland's presidential jet taking off from Warsaw early this morning. On board, President Lech Kaczynski and his wife, all the heads of Poland's armed forces and the security services, and dozens of government officials heading for Western Russia. 90 minutes later, the pilot reportedly disregarded Russian air traffic controllers' suggestions to use alternative airports because of fog and turned for final approach into Smolensk. The airplane clipped some trees, hit the ground, and burst into flames. All 97 people on board were killed. In a tragic irony, President Kaczynski and his delegation were on their way to a memorial ceremony for 20,000 Polish army officers murdered in Katyn Forest by Soviet secret police during World War II. The service went ahead with empty chairs for the Polish officials. Lech Kaczynski was elected president in 2005. In the 1980s, he was active in the Solidarity movement, which was directly responsible for the fall of Poland's communist government. He was 60 years old. When news of his death in this morning's crash reached Warsaw, there was shock and grief.
I can't really say what I feel because it's so terrible that the Polish, the most important Polish people, the Polish elite, just died today in the morning because of this catastrophe.
It's a great tragedy for our whole country.
Flowers were laid outside government buildings and special masses were said throughout the country. The Polish cabinet held an emergency session and declared a week of national mourning. World reaction was unanimous. President Barack Obama said the loss was devastating to Poland, the United States, and to the world. British Prime Minister Gordon Brown.
I think the whole world will be saddened and in sorrow.
Russian President Dmitry Medvedev and Prime Minister Vladimir Putin lit candles of condolence for Poland. Putin left Moscow for Smolensk immediately afterwards to take charge of the crash investigation. The Polish presidential jet was a 26-year-old Tupolev 154, a Soviet-era designed airplane notorious for its poor safety record. 66 of them have crashed in the past 4 decades, 6 in the past 5 years. Poland's government had discussed replacing it, but lacked the funds. Tom Aspell, NBC News, London.
And joining us now from Warsaw is Robert Moore from our British broadcasting partner ITN. Robert, can you describe the reaction there tonight and what you're seeing at the presidential palace?
Yes, Lester, right across this city, right across this country, there is an extraordinary sense of loss and of shock at the events that unfolded in the fog of Smolensk earlier in the day. And right here, there are some pretty extraordinary scenes. Thousands of Poles have come down here to the scene of the presidential palace. They are lighting candles, they are laying flowers, they are singing hymns, and they are continuing all day and all night this vigil for those lost. Remember, this is not just homage to a lost president, but also to an entire political and military elite lost in that plane crash. It wasn't just the president, it was generals, it was ministers, it was MPs, it was priests, it was academics. So there is a real deep sense of loss that Poland has indeed lost a large number of its most preeminent citizens.
And Robert, when you go down that list, it leads to the question about the continuity of government in Poland. How well is that government able to function right now in the wake of this tragedy?
I think it's a remarkable tribute to Poland's new sense of stability, that amid the trauma, amid the shock and the loss, there is absolutely no sense of constitutional crisis. Indeed, within hours of the plane crash, according to the Constitution, power switched to the Speaker of the lower parliament, who became the acting president, and then according to the Constitution, elections for a new president will be held within 2 months. So there is a real sense here on the ground tonight in Warsaw of deep national trauma, but also of national solidarity. No sense at all of political instability.
Okay, ITN's Robert Moore in Warsaw for us tonight. Robert, thank you. Back in this country tonight, tears of sorrow are flowing over the fate of those missing miners from the Upper Big Branch mine disaster in West Virginia. Early today, we learned all 4 men were found dead, bringing the death toll to 29. NBC's Tom Costello is in Beckley, West Virginia for us again this evening. Tom, good evening.
Hi, Lester. Good evening to you. It has been a week, as you know, of exhaustive work trying to get through this thick smoke, these explosive gases. Today, recovery and rescue teams made it to the miners and started removing the deceased miners that are 5 miles deep into this mountain. It has been a day of exhaustion, as you might expect, of also tremendous emotion and grief. On a beautiful spring day and under state trooper salute, the remains of 22 miners were carried out of West Virginia's Upper Big Branch mine today. Overnight,